Why did he wear a veil?
Tell me.
Because it scared the people. The glows, it was
Yeah.
because they weren't used. They didn't know what they were seeing. They didn't realize it was the glory of God. And then doesn't it say later in the New Testament that he put the veil, he wore the veil because it had diminished,
Yeah.
and he didn't want the people to know it had diminished.
I
It
think
doesn't have to diminish, does it?
we can always get right back in his presence. I was down at a private service last year at this time, and we pulled up, and there was like 350 people there, and the thing was all booked out, and I didn't even know if we were going to be able to get in. And we had a well-known person with us, and as we rolled down the window, that well-known person knew the head of the group, and they came over and said, "Oh my gosh," introduced us. The next thing I know, 10 minutes later, they VIP'd us, brought us right in, and set us right behind a speaker that really is in the presence of God on a regular basis. And she got done speaking, and she came over, they introduced us, and she says, "I know you." I said, "I know you." I looked at her eyes. She had that glow, but she had those eyes of Jesus that I'd seen when he appeared to me in a prison cell in front of two other prisoners. And like I've seen him on three occasions when, in 34 years of ministry, Jesus has appeared to me on three different occasions. But he had those eyes. And I looked at her, and she says, "Where do we know each other?" I said, "Was it here or there?" She goes, "No." She says, "But I know you." I said, "I know you." And I said, "I know those eyes because those are the eyes of Jesus." You know what she said to me? She said, "I spent a lot of time staring into his eyes." It's
Wow.
transferable because we reflect the one we behold. With unveiled faces, we're transformed into the same image of likeness. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 17 and 18. We're transformed into the image and likeness of his Son by the Spirit of the Lord. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And when we spend time in his presence, in the secret place, that presence transfers to us and we carry it out. That's where Peter's shadow heals the sick, Paul's handkerchiefs and aprons. When we walk in, I walked into a service in Kansas City, and they called me up to speak. I wasn't even the speaker at that event. And as I walked from the back of the church, I walked by a guy it was a packed church. I walked by, and when I went by him, I felt heat leave my left leg. Virtue went out of me. I didn't pray for this, man. And as I walked by, I thought, what was that? Virtue went out of me. And I went up to the pulpit and began to speak and began to pray, and God began to do healings corporately in the service. And afterward, the man come up to me and he said to me, he said, "When you walked by me, something came off of your leg. It went up my leg, and it was heat, and it went up my body, and I was delivered of alcoholism instantly."